Shalom, this is Yair Davidiy representing Brit-Am. I'm speaking to you from the land of Israel. And our organisation, our movement, Brit-Am, Hebrew Awareness, researches the whereabouts of the lost in tribes. We identify specific areas where the lost in tribes settled and where they are now to be found. And that is what we are concerned with researching the subject and spreading knowledge about it. We also have proven that the Jewish people, the Jews of Judah, are Judah according to the Bible, according to other sources, and this is an important factor because it is intrinsically connected. It is intrinsically connected with the whole concept of identifying the lost in tribes. So know who they are. We have to work towards not only identifying them, but also ultimately preparing the way to bring them together. And therefore there should be no doubts about the identification of either one of them. This concerns both Judah and the 10 tribes. And this is what we do. We work for this, and this is what we stand upon, and we are doing this. And we are possibly the only organisation, the only movement doing it at present. And it is one of the most important things that could be done in this present age. It is what the Bible requires, what the law requires, what the Almighty, as we understand, requires of us to do, and this is what we are doing. Today we are about to discuss the Irish. The Irish people. Are the Irish Jewish? Are they Jews? Are Irishmen Jews? Are they Hebrews? So, they're not Jews. Jews belong to Judah, to the tribe of Judah, or to inhabitants of the ancient kingdom of Judah, which included not only the tribes of Judah, but also the tribe of Simeon, or elements from Simeon, and elements from all of the other tribes, with the dominant element, the dominant party was Judah, and Benjamin, together with many from Levi. And from them came the present-day Jewish people. The other tribes had separated, they become separate from Judah, and they were sometimes referred to as Israel in the Bible when juxtaposed to Judah, sometimes referred to as House of Jacob or as Ephraim or as Joseph. As Samaria, depends upon the context. At all events they are separate. They were separate from Judah, they were a separate entity. They became separated, conquered by the Assyrians, they were taken into exile. And from there, through different diversion pathways, they recoalesced, they came back together in areas of Western Europe, and that is what we have proven, and that's what we concentrate upon, proof of. So one of the areas where the lost in tribes went to was Ireland, as well as the British Isles, parts of Western Europe, but today we're speaking about specifically concerning Ireland. We understand that a portion, not necessarily all, but a significant portion, a major portion of the Irish population were descended from Hebrews, were kinfolk of the Jewish people. They were part of the 10 tribes of Israel, and they were in Ireland. And that is where the present-day Irish, at least in part, descend from. And therefore they are brothers, one could say. They are from the same distant ancestor as the Jews. And therefore they should be somewhat sympathetic towards the Jews, and a lot of them are. Despite apparent inconsistencies and appearances, many Irish people do find Jews sympathetic and identify with them, and Jews also like Irishmen. They like Irish music. They understand the Irish characteristics, the Irish personalities to some degree. They are sympathetic towards them, but despite that, the Irish, at least according to the present population of the island of Yair, they are critical of the Jews. They are critical of the Jews in favour of the Palestinians, and they are in favour of the Palestinians insofar as the Palestinians are against the Jews. Where the Palestinians have problems, such as in Kuwait, such as in Syria, such as in other areas, the Irish don't really care about them. The impression is that the Irish are only concerned for the Palestinians because the Palestinians are opposed to the Jews, because they feel something against the Jews and want to get at the Jews, and they use the Palestinians to justify this antipathy that they have towards the Jewish people. And this is not something unique to the Irish. Most Gentiles, a good portion of the Gentile nations, are like this. But usually it is the non-Israelite nations have this characteristic. Not nations whom we identify as Israeli. And Ireland is exceptional in this regard. And this also requires some understanding, some explanations. But despite this, we still identify the Irish or the ancient Irish as having been to a significant degree of Israelite descent. And this contradiction, this apparent conflict in the evidence will be resolved in other ways or explained in other ways. It may be that the Irish are also intermixed with other peoples, other elements came into Ireland. Maybe the ones who take control, maybe the ones who give expression to their anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish sentiments. Whatever the case is, that is a different matter. At present we're discussing the Irish concerning the Israelite origins, or at least concerning the Israelite origins of part of them. And there are numerous proofs, numerous fields of evidence, or several fields of evidence that prove that the Irish are descendant from Israelites. One of them is megalithic monuments. Megalithic monuments are things, are edifices that were constructed in ancient times, such as dolmens. They are found throughout Western Europe, especially in Denmark, in Ireland, in the British Isles, in Western France, other areas. In Ireland, you have 4 major types of dolmens in different sections of Ireland. Each type dominates another area, another part of the country. And all 4 of these different types are also found in the land of Israel, or the land of Greater Israel, which in ancient times were included all of the area where the Israelites settled in, that encompassed what is now Jordan, is now Israel, which is now part of Egypt, what is part of Lebanon, or Syria, and other areas. And this is proven by the Bible and proven by archaeology. So in areas where Israelites were settled, we also find dolmens. We find dolmens that are exactly the same as the different types. We find dolmens of different types, parallel to the different types found in Ireland, and in appearance almost exactly the same. Not only that, even the angle of the rooftop of the dolmens is the same in both cases. And the superstitions of the natives in the Middle East concerning dolmens are also reflected amongst the Irish, according to chronicles from recent times. So this shows that there was a connection between the 2 areas and the similarities between them. Now there's a problem that conventional scientists or historians use Historians use scientific methods to date dolmens and other ancient findings, and they place the earliest dolmens to tens of thousands or thousands, at least thousands of years before the Israelites were exiled, to way back in history. And this is not exactly logical. It does not tie in with the physical evidence. And this is suspect, very suspect, and not unreliable in our opinion. The old opinion, before the historians started to use these scientific methods of dating, they had estimations based upon similarities of buildings, of records and findings on the ground. And they came to the conclusion that dolmens existed, say, from about 500 BCE up until Roman times, and this corresponds with the time of the Israelite exile and the times which we believe the Israelites went to or got to the western areas. And this is a proof that 2 areas were related to each other ethnically. We also have the language of Ireland. The language of Ireland is classified by linguists as of Indo-European type, that is similar to that of Europe, of India, of Persia, of what are called Indo-European peoples. It is also believed to be distantly related to that of the Romans, to the Latin of the Romans. But in addition to that, it has what is called a substratum, an underlying basis, which is not Indo-European, and which is similar to that of ancient Hebrew. And not only that, the vocabulary, according to reports, contains many Hebrew words. And this applies not only to ancient Irish, but also to ancient Welsh. And there are a lot of examples of this. So this shows that there is evidence pointing to some type of connection between the ancient Irish and also the Welsh and related peoples and the Hebrews. Not only, when we speak about the Irish, not only does what we say apply to Irishmen, it also applies to England and Wales and Scotland and to related peoples. And there were many tribes in ancient times in Ireland that migrated to the British Isles. And from the British Isles they even reached Gaul and France and other areas. Not only that, but later a large number of Irishmen settled in England. There are probably more descendants of Irishmen in England than there are in Ireland. And also we have Irishmen in the USA, in Australia and in other places. There may be more than 35 or 40 million descendants of Irishmen in the world today, and only about 4 or 5 million of them are to be found in Ireland. All the rest are scattered all over the area in the USA, in Canada, Australia, and so on. So what applies in prophecy to these areas belonging to lost 10 tribes also applies to the Irish who are living there. And so too what applies to the Irish living in Ireland also applies to the Irish and their neighbours who live overseas according to biblical prophecy. Irish legends speak of waves of migration reaching Ireland, and they have, some of these peoples have Hebraic names such as the tribe of Dana, which is a name similar to Dan, the tribe of Dan. And according to some versions of the Irish legends, they were indeed from the tribe of Dan, and they came from the land of Israel. Others say that the major inhabitants of Ireland came in a wave of migration, were descended from Milesians, or Gaedhels, as they call them, and who had been in Egypt at the time when the Israelites were subjected by the Egyptians. They had been friendly with the Israelites, and they'd gone out of Egypt together with them. Not only that, afterwards they had teamed up or become part of the Scythians and had gone westward. And this is the same thing that happened to the lost 10 tribes. So also we have to take into consideration that the Irish were Catholics. They were ruled over by priests, and this was the historical reality. And the church may have had reasons for its own not to allow the Irish, not to encourage the Irish to overduly stress any remnants, any recollection that they may have of the Israelite ancestry. This is a possibility. We have Jewish and Arab sources, that is, sources from Jews who lived in Arab countries. There, the tradition, the sons of Moses, whom they associate with as part of those 10 tribes, were in the Blessed Isles. Blessed Isle was another name for Ireland, and when the plural it applied to both to Britain and to Ireland. So they were saying in effect that lost 10 tribes were in that area. Also the pagans and the Greeks, that is also the pagan Greeks and Romans, believed that Saturn, or Cronus as he was called, was one of the chief gods. He'd been deposed from his throne and he'd gone to one of the islands of Britain, and he was still there along with his followers. So this in effect is saying that the Israelites had been exiled and had gone to the Western Isles, because Cronus, or Saturn as he is called, according to the Phoenician records and also according to Greek writings, was in a way identified with the ancient Israelites. Physically, Ireland is to the north and the west of the land of Israel. It is a geographical extremity at the edge of the continental landmass. This will be important when we see biblical references, biblical referrals to the lost 10 tribes in the end times, saying that they will be at the ends of the earth, saying that they will be in islands, and this is what, and being to the north and west of the land of Israel, and this is what island is. And also the island is in the Atlantic Ocean, and the Atlantic Ocean is also another sign that the sources indicate that lost tribes will be found therewith.